Welcome back to Hardball. President Bush and the Congress are going head-to-head this week. First, the president invoked executive privilege. He refused to allow testimony from two former high-level White House aides before the U.S. Congress. Then the president's first report to Congress on progress in Iraq is due by the end of this week. With us now for the Hardball debate over power of the presidency is Mark Green, president of Air America Radio, and Republican strategist John Feehery, who's a former top aide to the former Speaker of the House, Dennis Hastert. Let me go with this. First of all, Mark, I want you to comment on this. This is from your senator up there in New York, Chuck Schumer. Show me an administration that craves secrecy, and I'll show you an administration that probably has something to hide. Okay, Mark, worst case scenario, what is the president hiding here in not letting his two aides testify?
First, the issue in the U.S. Attorney's case is, where did the 9 names come from, and was it firing for cause, or firing for partisan political reasons, which you're not allowed to do if it's involving U.S. attorneys. Now, President Bush has said he had no role in it, okay? Taking him at his word, then why won't he allow his aides to testify, since there can't be executive privilege? Second, on warrantless wiretapping, the president's admitted he did it. And Attorney General John Ashcroft and Deputy Attorney General James Comey both said it was illegal and they wouldn't continue it. So if you want information on that illegal spying, that supersedes the limited, non-absolute right for executive privilege.
Let me go to you, John. The point, I think Mark made a good lawyer's point there, which is if the president's claiming a confidentiality of relationships with his aides, which makes sense, right, and then he denies he had any confidential conversations with them about this, what's his point? What's his claim of executive privilege if he wasn't involved?
Well, you know, I think that Fred Fielding thinks that he has a very good case. I think the president...
Well, he's got it.
The president's decided that he's got about 2 poker chips left, and he's going all in on this, and he thinks he's got a winning hand against the Democrats. I'm not going to get into all...
Is Cheney pushing executive power here again?
Well, I think it's a whole concept within the White House that they want to reassert the executive branch over the legislative branch. This is something that Cheney's been interested in. I think it's also...
Okay, let's talk about the compromise here. Washington always talks... Every time you read an article about Washington, they say, wouldn't these people be better off they could sit down and compromise? The Republican compromise here offered by President Bush is, Mark, that they'll offer to have Karl Rove or whoever else, all the hotshots, go up to the Hill, sit in the back room with the important congressmen and senators, and answer their questions off the record. Is that a compromise?
Of course not. It's an absolute win. President Bush and Vice President Cheney got used to one-party government, obviously from 2001 to 2006. That's over. And when you have a chairman like Leahy and Conyers and Waxman, they have a check and balance function. And Cheney, if he got any more secretive, he'd be a covert CIA agent. This guy, he helped author a 1987 congressional report, a minority report when he was a congressman, which said often the president has to have, their words, monarchical power, irrespective of what the law requires. Chris, these people are so contemptuous of the law, according to the Supreme Court decisions in the Clean Air Act, Guantanamo Bay, for example, that they will do anything they can to cover up what could be illegal conduct. So why trust them? They haven't told the truth about going into Iraq, and they haven't told the truth about the law. So when Fred Fielding says, trust us, that's laughable.
You know, it's easy to knock Cheney because he's not very lovable, obviously, as a public figure. He's very secretive, as you know. But, Mark, you had 2 guys run against him for VP, Joe Lieberman and John Edwards, and he beat them both in debates. How do you explain that? How can your party be so lame that they can't defeat the unlovable Dick Cheney in either debate? And you know these are facts. That's why you're chuckling, because you know I'm right. What is the problem with your party? It can't beat Dick Cheney on television. Come on.
Well, hold it. I think most people agree John Kerry beat George W. Bush in a debate, but that doesn't matter. Mr. Dick Cheney.
You're changing the subject. Dick Cheney,
okay,
look how mean he looks in that
Dick
picture.
Cheney.
We showed the worst B-roll we could of him walking along like a troll, and still he beats your guys.
Dick Cheney, Mr. 18%, makes George W. Bush look popular. As you know, Chris, the articles, The Angler, the story of Dick Cheney in the Washington Post last week, showed him, frankly, a radical conservative who has no respect for law and has gotten away with it because of, I think, the war on terrorism scared Americans.
The fact of the matter is Cheney's smarter than those guys. He's smarter at the levers of power. I think he's smarter on how to protect the country.
And he's going to win on this issue.
I think he's definitely going to win on this issue. I don't think they would do it if they didn't think they could.
Do you think, John, it will go to the courts?
I do.
And what will the courts say?
I think the courts will decide on the side of the
Separates the powers.
Absolutely.
What do you think will happen, Mark, if it goes to the Supremes?
here I have to hesitate. 7 of 9 justices
You never hesitate, Mark. You never hesitate.
On the law, executive privilege is not absolute, and they should testify. But the United States Supreme Court apparently now has 4 justices who don't care about precedent. Look what they did last week on segregation, on antitrust.
You think Kennedy will go with Bush?
Kennedy is the swing vote, and how Kennedy votes will determine whether George... By the way, this will happen by the late 2008, which is Bush is kicking the can down the road to the next president on the war.
So he's playing a delay game. You think that he can hold out on these subpoenas right till the end, practically?
He can hold out, but as his popularity approaches 25, they're going to lose as many seats in 2008 as the Republicans did in the 30s.
I got
That's
a plan,
the price.
Mark. You guys get hit with the contempt, he pardons them. Anyway, thank you, Mark Green. How's that for a solution to the problem? He pardons the guys that get hit with contempt charges. Anyway, thank you, John Fury. Once again, thank you, Mark. As always, up next, our Hardball Roundtable tonight digs into the Republican revolt on Iraq, and it is growing. Plus, will his party stand by him as he bucks questions from Congress on these U.S. attorney firings? This is Hardball, only on MSNBC.